We have a quorum. It is the appointed time for the meeting. Let me call the meeting to order. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, the chairman, is otherwise engaged. I'm standing in his place. Item 1 on the agenda. Confirmation of minutes of the last meeting. That was the meeting held on the 18th of November 2014. The minutes have been circulated to members, and the clerk has not received any proposed amendments. Can members please confirm the minutes? Thank you, Mr. Lam. Item 2, information paper issued since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, the administration issued one information paper, and that is on consultation on a new set of copyright tribunal rules. That's in paper CB bracket 1340/1415 bracket 01. The administration will conduct a 2-month consultation on a set of copyright tribunal rules, and the consultation period will end on the 9th of February 2015. The administration said that after the public consultation, it will formulate the final rules for vetting by the CJ of the Court of Final Appeal, and depending on the decision made by the CJ in accordance with Section 174 bracket 1 of the Copyright Ordinance, the administration will go through the positive vetting procedure in 2015 to submit the subsidiary legislation to the Legislative Council. Since this is technical in nature, the administration proposes to circulate the rules to members for introduction. If members are of the view that they'd like to discuss the rules at a future meeting of the panel after reading the paper, please indicate the same to the clerk before Friday, and that is the 19th of December. We just received the paper yesterday. Members, please take it back and read it. If you think we need a meeting on it, please let us know. Okay, you can inform the clerk. I think I am informing her now. Thank you, Chairman. I don't want to make another phone call. Great, thank you for that efficiency. Item 3 on the agenda, date of next meeting and items for discussion. That would be our regular meeting in January. The CE will announce his policy address on the 14th of January. So in our meeting on the 20th of January, the administration will be making a briefing on the relevant policies and measures in the policy address. That's for the next meeting. Item 4, review of fees and charges of the Intellectual Property Department. Let us now invite the administration team to come in. Let's welcome the administration representatives. First of all, Ms. Patricia So, PAS for Commerce and Economic Development. Ms. Ada Leung, Director of Intellectual Property. Ms. Connie Law, Acting Assistant Director of Intellectual Property Registration. Ms. Magdalene Ling, Principal Intellectual Property Examiner. Welcome to you all. Ms. Leung, is it that you would take us through the paper? Yes, indeed. Chairman, thank you. Under the IPD, there are a few registries, and the cost and services and the fees have just been reviewed, and after the review, we are proposing certain adjustments. The background, it is that the government policy is that fees charged by the government should, in general, be set at levels sufficient to recover the full cost of providing the services. In the 2013-14 budget speech, the Financial Secretary emphasized the need to review fees and charges systematically for upholding the user pays principle. The IPD has already done cost calculation and reviewed the cost for providing services at the various registries. Our proposal is to adjust the fees of certain registries, namely the Copyright Licensing Bodies Registry, the Trademarks Registry, and also Registered Designs Registry. According to the cost calculation and given the present fee level and also looking at prices in 2014-15, we are not able to recover full cost for application and renewal for licenses in the Copyright Licensing Bodies Registry. So we propose to increase the application fee and renewal fee accordingly by 12% and 58% respectively to recover full cost. At the Trademarks, Designs and Patents Registries, the policy intent is to encourage the creation, use and protection of IP by registration. Normally, the application fee is set at a competitive and affordable level, albeit below cost recovery, so as to attract filing on the one hand. And then for renewal fees, usually is set above cost recovery level, because on the one hand, we like to encourage non-renewal of disused intellectual property. And on the other hand, the fee can cross-subsidize the other services so that we can have global cost recovery. As for trademarks registry, designs and patents registries, the setting of the fees have been subject to the various factors. And as I said, the target is global full cost recovery. According to 2014-15 prices and also our own calculation, the trademarks registry cannot have full recovery. It is achieving 87%, 87 to 88%. Designs registry, it has achieved a level above cost recovery. It is 127%. And patents registry, the cost and fees are more or less balanced. So we propose that we do not have to make any changes to the fees charged by the patents registry. As for trademarks, we have given it some consideration, and we still would like to keep the application fee at a low level. And the adjustment should not be made to too many fee items, because if that's the case, it will be inconvenient to the users. So we are proposing just to adjust two large items of services. One is to the application procedure. Second, the renewal. For application, for trademarks, we'd like to increase it by 54%. Please note that the present fee has been set 11 years ago. An increase of 54% would mean between $380 to $800. We have compared our fees with the UK, Australian, and Singapore registries. The fees after adjustment will still prove to be competitive. They will still be relatively low compared to overseas registries, and also this will still be below the cost recovery level. And also, since we have automation and we have streamlined operational procedures, the renewal cost has continued to go down. So we also propose to adjust downwards the renewal fee. It will be adjusted downwards by 11% or $160 to $330. After adjustment, the renewal fee will still be above the cost level, and it will continue to be an important source of income for the trademarks registry. Another service related to trademark application is preliminary advice and a search of records. At present, by paying $200, you can get some preliminary advice or you can search the record of trademarks. And $200 would include an X number of classes. In other words, there is no cap to the request. This is a big cry from our cost, and we have seen that applicants have requested advice on a large number of classes at that flat fee. And the advice is with regard to goods and services. We'd like to recover more of our cost, and we are proposing to increase it by 100%. In other words, from $200, we want to increase it to $400. And we would add another $200 for each additional class of goods services. After this proposal, we are still quite a distance from the cost. In other words, there would be $400 for the first item, and with each additional class, you will have to pay another $200 for preliminary advice or for searching the record. Next, the designs registry. Since we have automation and we have streamlined procedures with regard to renewal, the cost has gone down, so we propose to reduce the renewal fees by about 36%, or $640 to over $1,600. In fact, this is done only once every 5 years, and there is an upscaling of the fee every 5 years. After reduction, the renewal fee is still above cost recovery level. And even after reduction, it will still be an important source of income for the designs registry. After that reduction, the cost recovery ratio would be reduced to 100%. And overall financial implications, if we implement the fee revisions, the estimated net increase in annual revenue would be $22 million. The IPD has been trying to enhance efficiency. We'll continue to see how we can streamline work procedures and facilitate electronic submissions of documents so as to enhance staff capacity. We'll continue to contain costs so our services are more efficient. We have done some public consultation on the proposed fee revisions, especially with people and also professional bodies in the IP field, including the Intellectual Property Committee of the Law Society of Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Institute of Trademark Practitioners, and Asia Patent Attorneys Association Hong Kong Group. And also, with regard to copyright licensing bodies, we have consulted 5 of these bodies, since we have increased quite a bit the renewal fee this time around. Basically, they have not indicated strong objection. They understand that these fees have been set 10 years or over 10 years ago without adjustment.
We also understand that there are views coming from practitioners, and also they have suggested that the fee levels should be maintained at low levels. For example, the renewal fees shouldn't be reduced, but a lower application fee. We have considered all such views, but we are proposing an increase for the application fee, and even after such adjustment, we are still very attractive and lower than the fees proposed in similar regimes elsewhere. So we believe that the proposals are reasonable, and renewal fees to be reduced by 11% is still very reasonable. Streamlining and digitization have both brought our cost level down. So the situation is as I have explained. Would like to obtain the views from members, and the next step is to go through negative vetting of the amendment legislation by LegCo. The revised fees are expected to be implemented in March 2015. Thank you. So some additions, some reductions. Mr. Ma Fung Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. According to the government's paper, the IPD in providing initial advice and search services, there is a kind of abuse. So I would like to know what is going on. Why is the cost 100% higher than the fee they pay? A search, well, you should pay per search. There shouldn't be any abuse. Can you consider just adding the fees for preliminary advice, but not for the search for trademarks? Wouldn't that be more reasonable? Why do you have to collect higher level fees for both? What are the reasons for or consideration for abuse? Ms. Low. Thank you, Mr. Ma. Concerning the two services, perhaps I can explain what we do for search. If an applicant applies for a search, it means there is a trademark he would like to apply for the registration of a trademark, so he would like to search the registry and see if similar trademarks have been registered. We have to go through our registrar, and also we have to decide if the proposed trademark is legally similar to the already registered ones. So it involves a search and also subjective vetting. So the cost is not low. The current level fee applies to search and preliminary advice. And that means whether a trademark can be identified as representative of a certain trader or product. Right now the fee is 200 each. There are 45 classes of products or services, so each applicant can pay 200 and request preliminary advice and search for all 45 classes. If that is the case, the workload is very substantial. Between 2010 and October this year, about 6% of applicants, when they apply for preliminary advice or search services, they cover more than 6 classes. In the past, in terms of applying for trademark registration, each applicant will only apply for registration covering 2 classes. So sometimes they ask for the services covering 6 classes, leading to additional cost on our end. This will also affect other services, for example, formal application for registration. If our officers spend too much time on providing preliminary advice, our resources are going to the wrong places. That is why we want to have 100% recovery and increase the level to $400 per class. Normally, people will apply for 2 classes. So for preliminary advice and search, they can pay 600. If they want to go through the search for 2 classes, they have to pay another 400. So if they are similar, you will tell them a similar trademark has already been registered. Are you going to charge according to item? Or in the past, people only ask for advice on 2 classes, so maybe you can have a tiered charging scheme. For example, Tier 1 will cover 3 classes, Tier 2 up to 6 classes. Every applicant will consider more than 1 classes. Is that going to make your charging scheme more reasonable? I don't have any strong objection for cost recovery, but the feeling is that you are not trying to discourage people to consider more classes. You're just trying to collect a reasonable fee. Well, concerning the search, other than the paid search service, anyone can go up to our website to do a search to see if there are already similar trademarks registered, and that is free service. So they can decide if they really need to submit the application. Ms. Leung was talking about a search that we conduct on their behalf, and also kind of vetting according to the law. Mr. Loco, 5 minutes each, all right? Okay, thank you, Chairman. The proposed fee adjustment involves increases and decreases. Following the principle of full cost recovery, I don't have any strong views, but I am concerned because we would like to encourage people to do more activities in relation to knowledge-based economy. We should encourage trademark designs, so on and so forth, especially for SMEs. If they are willing to pay some attention to this, that would be very good results. So the IPD may consider offering some concessions. What policies or measures are there to provide assistance to SMEs? Well, the IPD itself does not have any subsidies or funding scheme for applicants. But in terms of patent application, the ITD provides subsidies to those applying for a patent for the first time. They have 150,000 subsidy that will cover fees for IPD, and also they can ask an agent to prepare the documents. This is a kind of subsidy or funding support that many people find useful. When it comes to trademark application and outlook design, the fees involved are quite minimal. And in preparing for the application, you don't really need a professional agent. So even after the increase, it is only 2,000 per trademark. We have taken reference of overseas practice. Normally, our funding support will go to patents. Patent application for SMEs may be quite a burden. But of course, if they have good intellectual property, they have to be protected. So it's like catch-23. If you provide proactive policies and measures to help them, it will definitely be a good thing. I would like to add one thing. While the government does not subsidize designs or trademarks, if an enterprise uses money to apply for IP registration, that it is tax deductible from the profit tax. Chairman, Ms. Wang Tingguang. First of all, I would like to thank Chairman Mr. Fang. I have so much I met, and therefore I ask you to take my position. Concerning the fee adjustment, it's been 10 years, and there are increases and decreases. I cannot criticize anything. But when it comes to creative industries, I would like to encourage them. And one way is to offer protection to copyright. If we are to adjust the fee levels, even though the final figure is not that high, the rate of increase is quite substantial. The administration has talked about funding support. Even at the moment, under the current policies, such funding support is already available. So even if we move to the new charging scheme, well, you were providing funding support, but now you're proposing higher fee levels. So it is like taking food out of the beggar's bowl. I'm not saying that I strongly urge the administration not to increase the fees, but shouldn't we be gradual in this process? So perhaps you shouldn't increase the level by 100%. Can you exercise discretion? Ms. Low. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your questions. Actually, when we considered the level of increase, as we have explained in the paper, we have taken reference of other major trademark registries charges, such as Singapore and also UK and Australia. 2,000 is the minimum after the increase. Compared to Singapore, we are a lot lower because they charge by class, and per class is more than 2,000. So comparatively, our level is a lot lower. We have also consulted the major stakeholders. We have not received any strong objection or saying that people will stop applying. The big increase will go into trademark registration. Every year we have 30,000 odd applications, and more than 30% are local ones and more than 60% are overseas ones. So when we consider the trademark registration fees, mainly the applicants are coming from outside of Hong Kong, we have to consider the international fee level. When we think about funding support, we're talking about 30% coming from inside Hong Kong. So perhaps we can review the situation and see if any sort of funding support will be suitable for the local applicants. But if you look at the breakdown, the applications are more international. All right, so let's review the subsidy level. Should we record this on paper? The administration said they will review the subsidy level. If that is the case, I think it is a good thing. Thank you. Chung Kwok-pan. Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Leung just said that our fee levels are comparatively speaking lower than overseas levels. Can we get some examples? In different places, how much they're charging? Are we really a lot cheaper? What about Australia, Canada? These are huge places. Hong Kong is a small place. If you are registered in Hong Kong, compared to other countries, even if we are cheaper, perhaps we are not really cheaper if we calculate the geographical coverage.
Thank you, Chairman Mr. Chung. We have looked at a few economies, UK, Singapore, and Australia. We have looked at these three places because our trademark systems and laws are similar to theirs. Compared to Singapore, in fact, we are quite a similar economic entity. Let us look at Singaporean application fees. The first category, and it amounts to 2,300 Hong Kong dollars. And for each class that comes after, they allow paper submission and electronic submission. But it is $200 cheaper for electronic submission. Paper submission, $2,300, and $2,300 for every additional class. Even after addition, our first class is $2,000, and then $1,000 ever after. But for Singapore, it is always $2,300. And Australia, again, the same fee for every category or class. Paper submission, $1,500, and then still $1,500 for every class that comes after. The UK, it is a little different. It is closer to us. First class, more expensive, and then the fees go down. $2,500 odd for the first category. That is converted to Hong Kong dollars, and from the second class upwards, it is $600 from the second class upwards. But it's $2,500 for the first one. So generally speaking, we are cheaper than other economic entities. Talking about the size of the economic entities, if you look at Singapore especially, they still charge a higher fee than ours. And compared to these three economic entities, we are still more inexpensive after fee revision. Mr. Chung, you compared ourselves with the UK and Australia, but they are of such a bigger size, and they will be able to make use of the trademarks, etc., much more. And I believe they are not more expensive in a way. After registration, maybe if you apply in the UK, you can also go to European Union countries. If that's the case, then this is really worth the while to do it in the UK. We understand the EU operates another trademark system which covers the entire Europe, so the UK one doesn't cover Europe. From what we understand, our trademarks ordinance was very similar to the UK law, but in the last 10 years, the UK did amend their laws, and under that system now, the UK, when vetting an application, doesn't look for trademarks that may conflict with other trademarks. That would be left to the applicant. It will just look at whether the trademark is good enough to identify a certain service or a goods product. So the cost for providing the service is comparatively lower. We set our own fees by referencing to the level of fees in other trademark registrars, but the most important thing is really for full cost recovery. The cost would include office expenses and officers' remuneration, and we will have to have regard to the local situation. Mr. Martin Liao. Thank you, Chairman. In fact, I support the proposal. I support the fee revisions. An enterprise or an individual, if we register a trademark for commercial purposes, I don't think we will be registering a big number of trademarks unless you are a big scale enterprise or you emphasize branding like Disney. They will have to continuously renew their trademark. But I find it a little strange in that, according to the paper, under trademarks registry, you say you like to maintain the user pays principle. But in para 8, if you look at designs and patents and the revenue for those registries, they can recover full cost, but not the trademarks registry. we are now charging $1,300 and you want to upward it to 2,000, but Singapore is 2,300 and UK 2,500. They charge a higher fee than Hong Kong. I'd like to ask the Bureau, if you go for the user pays principle, why can't we adjust the fee even more and you don't have to fix it at $2,000? Director. Thank you, Mr. Liao, for your question. After revision, if you look at the table at para 8, the cost recovery rate 87.7%. This is the present situation. After fee revision, all three registries will achieve 100% cost recovery. We don't want to receive more than the cost, even if our application fee is still lower than other registries. We can already achieve 100% cost recovery after fee revision, but we review the fees and cost recovery every year. If necessary, we can make other adjustments. But as I said, on the one hand, we want to know whether cost is escalating, but on the other hand, we want to enhance efficiency. We would like to keep the fees at a certain level for a certain period of time. Next, Director, I have a few questions for you. Number one, you said that in assessing the trademark registration applications, you said that there could be abuse cases. And in fact, when people seek advice, they can ask for 6 classes. Is that right? Yes, for some applications. If we look at recent figures, about 6% of application for preliminary advice is for advice on 6 classes. But in fact, the abuse situation is not serious, even if there is some abuse. But the most important thing is that our cost recovery rate is really very low because we are only charging $200 for everything. That is why we want to increase the service fees. Well, I am of the view that you have not reviewed your fees for 11 years and you now only increase the trademark registration fee from $1,300 to $2,000. I would support that. But then your paper also talks about a user pays principle. And then you also say in the paper that after the fee revision is implemented, there will be $22 million increased revenue this year. What about your revenue at present, or are you suffering a deficit? Since you talk about user pays in the paper, people would argue that you now have revenue, so shouldn't you revise the fees downwards? So you must be careful how you word your documents. Chairman, let me explain and clarify. The $22 million is the net increase in revenue. It is not a surplus. With these $22 million coming to us, we will just achieve a 100% cost recovery at the registries. In other words, now that we do not have the $22 million, we are not achieving cost recovery. Are you operating at a deficit? Yes. If we look at 2014-15 prices, we expect there will be a deficit of $22 million. Okay, after fee revision, you are looking at breaking even, is that right? Or with a small surplus? Well, in a way, yes, because at the patents registry, the cost recovery rate is 102%, but it is a very small percentage, and we believe we should not reduce the cost or the fees just because there is a 2% surplus. What about electronic submission? Do you do anything to give people the incentive to submit electronic applications? Indeed, yes, Chairman. We encourage applicants to make electronic applications because it's convenient and efficient both for the applicant and the registries. We may not have a fee differential as in overseas jurisdictions, but after we have launched the electronic application service, that was in 2003, the present ratio of electronic applications is over 50%. At certain registries, it is almost 70%. We will continue to promote electronic application, and indeed we are going to assist applicants if they have technical problems in submitting a big number of applications. If the percentage will increase from 50 to 17 or 80, does it mean that you will have more revenue because the costs will further go down? Well, yes. If there are more electronic applications, our cost should go down. And from the FC this year, we have been able to secure funding to upgrade our computer system. After that, we will be able to enhance our service efficiency, and so more people will have the incentive to submit their applications electronically. Right. Any other questions? If not, Director, I think you have heard members saying that they support the fee revision mainly. Now, this is for negative vetting, and these will be implemented in March 2015. You have heard our views. I hope you will now go back and get prepared for launching the fee revisions. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Item 5 on the agenda. Launching of a new enterprise support scheme to replace the Small Entrepreneur Research Assistance Program under the Innovation and Technology Fund. I think the administration representatives are here. Let us welcome the administration team to this session.
首先歡迎政府。
Let's welcome the administration. Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, Ms. Janet Wong. Deputy Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, Mr. Johan Wong, and Assistant Commissioner for Innovation and Technology, Ms. Pamela Lam. So, Ms. Wong, would you like to introduce the paper? Yes, thank you, Chairman. Actually, this paper is not complicated. In March this year, we consulted the panel and said that we would like to set up an enterprise support scheme, ESS, to replace the existing Small Entrepreneur Research Assistance Program, CRAP. Because after running CRAP for so many years, we've done a review and we have identified some insufficiencies. For example, the applying company must employ less than 100 people, and when it makes a profit in the future, they have to follow a certain formula to repay the money. At this time, we need to actively promote the private sector in terms of its involvement in R&D. So we would like to launch a new program, a better program to replace it. As long as the company is incorporated in Hong Kong, disregarding the size, we would accept the application, and the threshold has been moved from $6 million to $10 million. And more importantly, if they make a profit in the future, the logic is their success will be our success, and there is no need for recruitment. This paper simply sets out some background information. For example, in the first year, how many cases have been received, so on and so forth. I would like to highlight a few points. For example, when it comes to benefit sharing arrangements, the background is the R&D centers, most of them request the applicant, in case of successful commercialization, should share part of the benefits. If we ask them to repay the centers, then it is very similar to CRAP. The industry also informed us that there shouldn't be such mandatory requirement. On the other hand, we feel that if the applicant takes the initiative to say that they're very confident, they want the vetting panel to know that they are very sure, and they want to arrange benefit sharing, there's no reason for us to turn it down. Therefore, as set out in the paper, we decided to make it something not mandatory, but upon their offer, we can accept it. The advantage is that together with these R&D centers, such as retail, logistics, and science R&D centers, the differences will not be too substantial. With the new scheme in place, we are hoping to create this rainforest effect so that more enterprises will be involved in R&D. You should remember we have a cash reimbursement scheme. 30% will be given back. So basically, the private enterprise pays $35, we pay $65, and it will be $100 in total.
今朝我哋嗰個火警，主席走唔走好啊？而家第一次嚟都係。主席，我同你共存喎。主席，你知道你攬唔埋？我攬住佢，我冇攬。存喎，有個存字㗎。我冇聽啲嚟精工度講。
今日晏晝嘅火警走火警喎，12點半係。係唔好意思處長。唔緊要。我繼續。
係係啊，其實我都。
Yes, I have already taken members through the most part of the paper. So with your support, the new scheme can be launched in the first quarter of next year. Actually, many people in the industry have been looking forward to this launch. Another point I would like to make is that under the new arrangement, there will be flexibility for cash and non-cash donations. We would accept both of them. But of course, they cannot apply for the match-up fund by using the same machine. So under CRAP, we only allow cash, and under the new scheme, we allow flexible arrangements. For example, a new machine is to be provided by a company in Israel. We can use it for matching. But of course, we have to protect the use of public funds and will be very prudent. Hopefully, with your support, we can launch it in spring next year. So it is a matching fund. Yes, 50 to 50. But there could be a cash rebate for $15. So at the end, the enterprise pays $35, the government pays for $65. Thank you. Members? Any questions? Mr. Mok Nai Kwong? Chairman, the launch of ESP to replace CRAP, I think we all understand the benefits. The level of funding support is much higher, and there is no limitation on the scale of the enterprise. We understand the CRAP provided a lot of assistance to startups, but the downside is that the enterprises will have to repay the money. Under ESS, there will be no repayment, so it's much better. Some companies are worried because companies of any scale can apply, so the smaller ones are worried. Perhaps when their projects are presented, they appear to be less attractive than those presented by the large companies, or in the process of vetting, perhaps they cannot attract enough attention, and at the end there will be less support going to the SMEs. CRAP was like tailor-made for SMEs, and that will change in the future. So how do you provide assurance to them that they will get enough attention in the future? Do you have an idea how many applications will come from SMEs? Are you going to set a ratio for other CRAP applicants? They always come and ask me, should we wait or just go ahead now and apply for CRAP first? So what is the transitional arrangement? When is the time? They may be thinking, if I apply now, I have to repay the money. If I apply under ESS, I don't need to repay anything. But they're not sure if the vetting criteria will be more stringent in the future. Should they get the benefits right away, or should they wait? This is really bothering them. If they are to wait for months, it may affect their development, or the technology will be copied by someone else, or the market condition would have changed. Then they shouldn't wait. And they have also brought to my attention that they are quite worried about the existing vetting issues under CRAP. Can they be resolved under ESS? We're talking about people coming from the department or outside experts who are not familiar with what they do. For some reason, they don't quite understand what they are proposing, or they have different ideas, so the applications have been rejected. If nothing will be improved on this front, they cannot enjoy any benefits even without the recoupment arrangement. Finally, at this stage or in the last year, they apply for CRAP. Can they be transferred to the ESS? If they apply one day too early, they have to repay the money according to the spirit of contract. But I don't think the government really needs that amount of money. Can you offer some reasonable transitional arrangement so that they can make the transition over to ESS? For the lay applicants for CRAP, do they have this option? Ms. Wong, transition, and whether all the attention will go to the large players. There is no need to worry, because in the future, we have very clear scoring system. When we vet the project, we will look at the nature of the project. We welcome companies of any sizes. We also understand that large companies have more funds and resources. So when it comes to applications from small enterprises, we will understand that they are startups that will be considered. So there is no need to worry. When it comes to transitional arrangements, to be honest, concerning this scheme, when it is supported today, we can launch it already. So we are very confident that we just need to prepare the forms, and in spring it will be ready. So I would say just wait for the new scheme because it is a better option. There are some CRAP projects still pending. There is no need to worry. If you would like to go for CRAP, if you think that the timetable is very tight, you're not sure about the vetting procedures, you can withdraw the application anytime. And then you can just fill in the new ESS form. So it is not transition. You're just withdrawing the old application and submitting a new one. Would it be more difficult to apply for ESS? That is not our intention. We will not impose anything more difficult compared to CRAP because we want to achieve this rainforest effect. We are investing public money into their projects. It is not our intention to make things more difficult. Mr. Mok mentioned that under CRAP there are some issues. I will ask Mr. Wong to explain. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Mok, for the questions. Actually, right now, CRAP application, I can tell you, our colleagues have already started their work after receiving the applications. Before the project is discussed, our colleague will spend time to understand the application, especially since they are coming from many startups. Perhaps they are not providing enough information, or when they describe the project, they do not comply with our vetting format. So our colleague will spend the time to explain to them, and when it is actually being vetted, we have a panel under CRAP. We will choose the experienced experts to look at the applications. They will not be laymen. Whether some individual applicants do not succeed in the application, after the meetings, our colleagues will talk to them and inform them of the reasons for failure, or whether there are insufficiencies in the scheme, the plan, or the proposal. All these will be continued under the new scheme. We will handle the applications in similar way, hoping to address most of the issues that Mr. Mok brought up. Thank you. Next, Lower Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. The new ESS and the old CRAP. Of course, the new scheme is more relaxed. The threshold has been upward adjusted and the size of the enterprise is disregarded and there is no recoupment.
Yes, it is more lenient, and I think it's a good thing. I hope this will cause society to put more emphasis on science and technology. I think this is positive. But then on the other hand, we're talking about public money. So we should not just plow in money and then talk about revenue for the government in the end, but rather whether through this ESS we can upgrade the success rate of enterprises in doing science and research. I don't think you have talked too much about this, but this is my concern. On the one hand, I welcome the government plowing more resources to research and development for enterprises, but then you should also have an objective in this plan or scheme that you can upgrade R&D in Hong Kong. Secondly, you do not have a benefit sharing compulsion, but you say if the enterprises are confident, then they can propose such benefit sharing. Does it mean that they will enjoy a higher success rate? Thank you. This is a new scheme. How can we make it effective? I think we have to do something or different things at different stages. When we are ready next spring, we are going to do a lot of publicity. We are going to cooperate with Chambers of Commerce and the Hong Kong Science Park. Just today, I was talking to someone who was trying to apply for ITF, and he or she told me that it was very difficult to find the information on the internet. So I think we have to do a lot more publicity, and especially for new industries or startups, they may have difficulty in controlling cash flow. So the Hong Kong Science Park and organizations of the like will provide support to them. They will ask successful companies or outstanding entrepreneurs and who are experienced and who might have applied for ITF in the past to do sharing sessions with the startups. So it's not just we distribute the money and that's the end of it. We need to do a lot of support in terms of the culture of R&D. Maybe Mr. Wong can supplement. Thank you, Chairman. Talking about enhancing the success rate. Now, of course, we hope they can apply for funding successfully so that they can continue to be innovative and creative. But as the Commissioner said at the outset, the ITC operates many funds, and from the experience of giving funding, we need a critical mass before we can have a good success rate. We have the assessment panel looking for people with the right qualities. We will ensure that the quality of the application is at a certain standard. But talking about innovation and creativity, we cannot guarantee success. But at least at the application stage, we will ensure that they are of a certain standard before we will allow the application to go through. And with the matching fund, the applicant company can attend training sessions operated by the Hong Kong Science Park, so we can provide a one-stop service. This is for startups, this is very important for them. Chairman, can I ask another question? I think you need to do follow-up throughout the process. Maybe they can write a beautiful application and then you give them the money and then they spend public money without you doing the follow-up. And apart from monetary support, experienced supervisors, call them whatever you like, tutors, monitors or supervisors, should liaise with these companies regularly. And then they should write a report to the ITC from time to time. This will be a way for the necessary information to go back to you from time to time, or else we are just spending public money and then there is no monitoring. Mr. Lam Tai Fai? Thank you, Chairman. I believe the Commissioner really has to explain further the target of help for the ESS. I am worried that you will marginalize the small companies. You may neglect them as a result. It was called the syrup, but now you replace it with the ESS. From the name, you will see that you are no longer just looking at small companies, but you are targeting companies of all sizes. This is not something good for small enterprises. Secondly, you allow the subsidy to be as high as $10 million, but then the applicant will also have to put in at least half, in other words, $500,000. It is not a small amount for small companies. It is a big number, and in fact, it can be an astronomical figure. It is a high threshold. Of course, you can apply for a smaller figure. But does it mean that you are going to favor the larger companies by switching on the green light for them? And I'm afraid that later on, the large companies will be more successful, and in the end, the small companies will be marginalized. You are spending public money. Of course, you want to achieve some results, and you may want to cooperate with the large companies because they have a better foundation, so they have a better success rate. And in the end, you will have to write your report card and you will say you have achieved a lot. You may not want to approve the applications of small companies or micro companies because they may not have such a high success rate. So on the face of it, it looks good. And of course, we can't have a perfect policy, but I don't want SMEs to be neglected or marginalized. This is my big worry. And Commissioner, you really have to explain very clearly how you can guarantee that small companies and micro companies will have the same opportunity. Because if you ask them to fork out $5 million, you are really designing the ESS only for the large companies. How do you expect SMEs to invest $5 million into R&D? And I'd like to ask you, how many successful commercialization projects have we had so far? When you do any R&D, in the end, you want to market it, you want to commercialize it, or else it will remain a piece of art. You have done the assessment in the end, but how can you do it better under ESS? If you do not have any estimate and you just rush into it, it will really result in a waste of public money. You must have a target. And also, how many micro companies, in other words, what is the ratio of micro companies that will be successful in its application? Commissioner, thank you for the questions. You don't have to worry at all, because we really have to thank the FC for having the ITF. It is not that we have a fixed sum at the ITF. As long as the applications achieve the required standard, we can approve the applications. That has been our policy all along. We will certainly support small companies because they are local companies in the main. We'll certainly want to nurture them. And this is what the Hong Kong Science Park has been doing more and more. In the past, they only had one incubation program, but now they have a mid-program. In other words, the good performing companies have been selected for further training. Therefore, we are not going to lose sight of the small companies. As for the larger ones, we shouldn't discriminate against them and keep them out of the scheme, because they can also provide technological exchange, and more importantly, they will be able to create employment. University graduates always favor working in these companies. In fact, I missed out one point earlier, and that is on monitoring. Certainly, we are going to do monitoring. It is not that we dictate that they be successful, but at least after getting our money, they should only use it on the purpose they proclaimed to achieve. So they will have to make regular reports and also submit audited accounts. As for commercialization of R&D products, when we reviewed the ITF, we have extended the scope of ITF to cover samples and prototypes. So we have taken measures to step up commercialization of R&D results. As for actual examples, can I defer to Mr. Wong? Thank you, Chairman, and Mr. Lam for his question. Let me supplement some information. We were asked whether we are going to neglect SMEs. Let me talk about statistics under CREP for your reference. Under CREP, the matching maximum is $6 million, but my statistics tell me that over 70% of applications are asking us to match less than $2 million, or even some below $1 million. They take up 70% of the applications. From $2 million to $4 million, which are in the middle rung, that takes up 24%. In other words, only 5% apply for the maximum matching fund. We believe after launching ESS, the funding level has been raised to $10 million, and we also welcome larger companies. And in fact, we are confident that right now about 100 CREP applications will prove to be interested in the new ESS. So there should be no question of possible neglect of SMEs. As for success rate, members may be interested to know that figures at hand tell us that ever since the establishment of CREP, we have approved 390-odd projects. Amongst those, 240-odd, meaning more than 50%, have been successful. In other words, they can produce a prototype of the professed product, or they have developed new technology. Well, it's difficult to say whether they have been selling the product to make a big profit, but if you only talk about our assisting them in producing a prototype, that will account for more than 50% of the approved applications. Well, you cannot say whether it has become a successful business. There have been successes, but the number tends to be small. But we are confident, looking at the figures, that after launching ESS, since we have more lenient conditions, and we believe we should be able to attract more creative people in coming forward to make applications. And therefore, there should be a higher proportion of commercialization of R&D results compared to the last 15 years of CREP. Ms. Ann Chang. Thank you, Chairman. How much money do we have in the ITF? And how much money would be put aside for ESS? Commissioner. We have $200 million in the ITF. As we said at our report last time, this can see us through to mid-2015. We are now talking earnestly for arrangements post-mid-2015. Now, as to how many applications will be coming forward later on, it cannot be too accurate, but we believe there would be more than under CREP. In para 29, we have given you some figures. Maybe Mr. Wong can give you further explanation. This is our initial assessment, but as I said, ITF is a rolling fund, and you need not worry too much.
Thank you, Chairman. It's okay, no need. You don't need to speak. I only have a few minutes. I know you will spend all my time. I understand Janet's tricks. Chairman, I would like to ask. The government is willing to provide funding to encourage R&D work in Hong Kong, and that is a good thing. Funding that goes into local R&D work in the private sector is too low compared to advanced places. So I support the scheme in principle, but at the end of the day, we're using public money, so I need to seek clarification. Otherwise, if you come back for funding support, I need a reason. So we are moving from CRAP to the new ESS. I would like to know the major difference is under the new scheme, no recoupment is needed. In the past, a few percentage of the enterprises repaid all the money. Well, thank you. According to our funding arrangement, up to November 2014, 480 million odd. Among 390 odd projects approved, 110 repaid money, and the total amount is about 25 million. But when do we ask for such repayment? Since establishment until November 2014, we have allocated 480 million. During the same period, 25 million recoupment came back to the Treasury. So 455 million never came back. They should flow back. So isn't that bad debt? Have you tried to understand why they did not repay? Is it because the companies closed down? So there are different scenarios. All these have expired. There is no deadline for repayment or recoupment. Well, they can attract third-party investment, they do R&D. So we ask them to take part of that investment to repay the government, or they have started commercialization. Okay, Chairman. Yes, I understand. I've been doing business for much longer time, so I don't need your explanation. Before they ask for funding support, we need to understand what is happening. For this new scheme, I think we need to think deeper. I won't leave. I will ask in the second round. Thank you. According to Ms. Wong, or Mr. Wong, more than 70% of the enterprises applied for funding less than 2 million. We understand that there could be new R&D concepts coming from startups. They would like to apply for a small amount just to try. Let's say they obtain 2 million in the first round. They come up with a sample, it's okay, and then apply for a second round, another 2 million. to move on to phase 2 development. If it is a new concept, you come up with a sample. You cannot sell it. It cannot be commercialized. But at the end, we want commercialization. What is the ratio? How many will come back for second application or third application? Or perhaps 50% of them, the concepts actually worked, and we want the concepts to work at the end. The figure should be quite limited because CRAP was established by the ETC, and around 4 to 5 years ago, up till that time, we did not encourage people to do or work on samples or templates. In recent years, we have been liberalizing the scope of ITS. Samples, prototypes, and today we allow integration of a few technologies or clinical trials. Overall speaking, however, that represents recent trends. So, Mr. Wong, the number should be quite limited. Thank you, Chairman and Mr. Chung, for the question. I don't have the exact figures showing how many applicants applied for 2 times or 3 times. More than 70% of applicants applied for 2 million or less. You can look at the scope of technology and understand what they are engaged in. More than 50% of them are engaged in IT projects. I believe IT projects may have a lower access threshold, and that is why. And then more than 20% went into electronic goods. So IT plus electronic goods already took up 75% of all applications. We do not rule out the possibility of repeated applications, but we have to go back and look at the statistics to see if we can find out there were repeated applications. Well, the old scheme requires recruitment. Ms. Wong said, if they have a third-party investment, they should repay part of the money first. If they want to invest into commercialization of their R&D work, they need to repay the government first, right? No, not under the new scheme. Totally unnecessary. So whether there is third-party investment or they have made a huge profit, they don't need to repay the government. Mr. Low has asked if they offer benefit sharing at the application stage, if they're very keen, and after going into commercialization, they can repay $500,000 the first year. If this is their initiative, and of course there will be positive impact on their application, and we said at least 50%. If when they approach us, they just want to borrow 30%, that is also allowed. The major difference between the two schemes is that as long as you are successful, I'm happy. I don't need the money back. According to the last IT fund study, we have been criticized by Audit Commission because many of the CRAP applicants did not repay the money and refused to reply to our inquiries. And many lawyers had to be lined up to go after the recoupment. So after so many years, what we got back was 25 million. We only have a few staff. It is very difficult to go after a company for more than 10 years when they are not taking initiatives in telling you there is third-party investment. Perhaps you only find out by reading the paper. So we just tell people under the new scheme they do not need to repay anything. But of course, it is such a wonderful scheme. If they come back to reapply, they will have to tell us the second time around that they were successful in round 1. So this is a kind of incentive for them to proactively tell us their result, their performance of commercialization. Right, that's the end of first round. Before we begin round 2, I would like to ask Ms. Wong some questions. They are supposed to repay the government, but out of 480 million, only 25 million was repaid. So it is only about 4 or 5%, less than 5%. We are all very worried that if you allow large enterprises to join the application pool, will the money run out very quickly, because they will approach you and they ask for more money or as much as possible. When it comes to R&D, even 10 million is not a lot of money. In the past, 480 million was given, and you funded 400 odd enterprises, so around 1 million per enterprise. So that's a very small amount, because the previous focus was on SMEs, and now large enterprises may come in and ask for 10 million. So the pool will run out very quickly. Secondly, you make it clear that there's no need for repayment, and the number of applications will even grow to a bigger number. Right now, the success rate is more than 50%, according to Ms. Wong. If no recruitment is required, more applications will come in. Will the success rate drop substantially? Because everyone will apply, because there's no need to repay. So everyone will try their luck. When the products are available, it doesn't mean they can be launched into the market and become popular. Maybe at the end they do not make any profit. So you continue to nurture such people, but there is no real commercialization. Or people go to the United States to be listed. So we nurture them, and when it is time for harvest, we don't enjoy any fruits. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, if large enterprises apply for 10 million, would the money be gone very quickly? First of all, we don't just allow them to take the money away. At least 50% should come from them. For a period of time, we saw the need to ask for 60% from the enterprises. Perhaps they have non-cash sponsorship. So that is the minimum requirement. The most important is when we vet the projects, we would not do so just for the sake of approving. We have a scoring system. We have to consider the technical details, technical capability of the team, and management capability. So right now it's 35-65. They still need to find the original funds to do the matching. Actually, our colleagues were quite worried because we don't know how many companies will approach us. So when it comes to manpower arrangement, we were quite concerned. Perhaps it will become a happy problem and we'll have to work until late nights. If many companies approach us and the money runs out very quickly, it is a positive impact because the GDP ratio is only 0.73%. Because the split between public and private sector doing R&D work is 6-4. So with this scheme, we can offer some funding so that large and small enterprises to approach us enthusiastically in the longer run, we will be able to promote a higher level of R&D work in relation to GDP.
社會
Therefore, if we can dish out the money, there will be a positive effect on the level of R&D in our society as a whole. I can give you some information. Just now, we mentioned that one big improvement of the ESS is so-called recruitment or benefit sharing, and that it is more relaxed. We have done some research about the US, UK, Singapore, and Australia. There are similar supportive schemes for private companies to do R&D. These companies don't require recruitment of funds or benefit sharing. My understanding is that I can also quote Israel as an example. Israel is the only country amongst the 5 that we have looked at that requires a small benefit sharing. The US, the UK, Singapore, and Australia, they don't require that. Secondly, when large enterprises are also accepted, will they flood us with applications? Our view is, number one, through the assessment mechanism, we can ensure the standard of the applications. Secondly, we believe the role of the government should be to allow private companies to reduce the risk of R&D investment. If large enterprises are already at a very late stage of commercialization of their R&D results, they won't approach the government. They will just go it on their own. People approach the government first because they're SMEs. They need support from the government because the threshold is high. And secondly, maybe larger enterprises think that the risk is high for certain projects, and they may come to us at an early stage of the project so we can assess the risk involved and to see whether it is worth our support, even if the project proposed is at an early stage. So we have a different role vis-a-vis the stage of the R&D projects. I believe we are more involved in the early stages. Second round, Mr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. The Commissioner answered my earlier question, and I was just concerned about enhancing the success rate. The Hong Kong Institute of Engineers runs a training program for engineers, and in the 2 years, companies that can successfully apply for the funding will in fact be able to send engineers for training. And we do send experienced engineers to pay visits and to monitor the progress of the project, and reports would be written to the Hong Kong IE. So you see, we are very careful in using our funds. Now, under the new ESS, since it is a support scheme, you should not just be talking about money. Since you also offer professional help to help them enhance the success rate, and you also said that an audited account should be submitted. Now, if after looking at the audited account you think the enterprise concerned has not done a good job, then would you then immediately ask for the funds to be given back, or will you in fact be distributing the $10 million in stages? Commissioner, I agree with you that we should give sustained support. The Hong Kong Science Park experience is a very positive experience. It is our flagship. we are going to cooperate with the Science Park. Mr. Low, you are a director at the board of the Science Park. As you know, we have an alumni of Science Park. We can expand the network, and we need a lot such volunteers to help these new enterprises. I really thank people from the IT or even science fields who have given us support. But if there is squandering of money, you don't have to worry, because we are going to send out the funds in stages. Every 6 months we ask for clear deliverables. They have to come with the matching fund, and then we will pay the matching amount. So we're not going to give the entire amount at one go. You don't have to worry about that. But Chairman, can I clarify one point? This scheme is a part of your work, but it is not directly related to the Hong Kong Science Park. Is that right? They will just introduce experts to help you do support. Is that right? If that's the case, I have to declare that I'm a director of the board of the Hong Kong Science Park. We are going to have very close cooperation. The Science Park will provide concessions. Companies can enjoy rent concession or even exemption if the Science Park finds them suitable. The Science Park and the government are both providing support to people doing R&D and who are involved in innovation and creativity. At the assessment panel, there will be top-ranking people from the Science Park. If the Science Park sees that some companies have the potential, it may in fact positively liaise with the companies to take part in their incubation program. Mr. Lam Tai-Fai, Chairman. In the first round, I said that I was worried about small and micro enterprises, which might be neglected or marginalized under the new scheme. I think, Chairman, you share my thoughts. But the government officials cannot alleviate my worries. They actually make me more worried. They said certainly they will not neglect those companies, and they have confidence not to neglect those companies. That will not do, because these are emotional words. In fact, the ESS has a few characteristics. Under the syrup, it is called an enterprise support scheme for SMEs. But here, you support all enterprises. In other words, companies of different sizes have to compete for funding. And this time around, the funding ceiling is $10 million, and you ask the companies to fork out at least half. In other words, SMEs have to fork out $5 million, which is impossible. And this time around, you are not going to recoup the funding. Well, let us not say you just give it to them, but in any case, you don't ask for the fund to be repaid. It is good that you are going to attract more enterprises, but you have to understand, large enterprises would be at an advantage, because it has a better human data bank. It will be able to write better reports than SMEs. You are going to ask them for deliverables in the form of regular reports, and these large enterprises would certainly be able to enjoy a higher rate of success as a result. And logically, these large enterprises would have a higher success rate than SMEs. And number 3, the fund will be depleted one day. If large enterprises flood in, okay, you say it's something good, but then SMEs will not be able to get any funding. Maybe the ratio between large and small enterprises that will be helped would be 100 to 1. Well, that will be natural selection, let's say. And this is my worry. Just now, the Commissioner said we should not discriminate against large enterprises. Of course we shouldn't, and we should nurture them. But we are talking about a support scheme. It is like alleviation of poverty. You only support those who need your support. And who are the SMEs now? If the scheme will naturally evolve into a scheme favoring the large enterprises, well, it's all right. But in the process, you are going to neglect the SMEs. Just now, you have not told me any concrete measures, concrete incentives. You only listed figures. Under the old scheme. Now, if the old scheme is so good, then let us not turn it into something new. You can have a new scheme running parallel to the old one. And also, under these schemes, you must help enterprises to change or commercialize R&D results. But you did not give us a concrete figure. You must have a target of success. Even if you ask a tutor to come and teach your child, you would like him to rise from third in class to first in class, right? So you should have a target that you need to achieve. Maybe you say out of 100 applications, there should be 50 successful cases of commercialization. So you need that kind of indicator. We won't negate the main direction of the scheme. However, you have to be careful about the details, or else you will not be able to achieve any effect. We don't want to support any scheme that is not effective. I think you have to thresh out all the details first before you roll it out. Don't say you want to do something next spring, next summer. That is meaningless to me. Commissioner, I think the most important point is there is no cap of applications. In other words, SMEs will not be capped out. But I think we should mention that 3 university graduates can set up an SME, and if just 3 persons are applying for $10 million, probably we won't approve it, because we have to look at its competitiveness and its track record. If it is a micro enterprise, we understand that our objective is to help them lower the threshold of entry into the commercial market. And as you know, some parents say their children should work in large enterprises, but we want graduates to also be able to set up their startups. So we are not going to apply the same yardstick to SMEs vis-a-vis international conglomerates. We will give consideration to the capacity of a startup with just 3 university graduates. And the fund that they apply for should justify what they propose to do. So they may be applying for $700,000 to start with, and as their capacity grows, and when they have a track record, then they can come again, and we will have more confidence in them, and they can grow step by step. And in the end, we hope they will reach the stage of commercialization of their R&D results. We cannot say there have been many successful examples, but this is the model we like to adopt. Maybe the Deputy Commissioner can add. Thank you for the question. I have 2 examples at hand that I can share with members. These are success examples. One company applied to us a few years ago for funding under CIRAP. They involve in integrated circuits development. They started with a company with fewer than 10 people, and in 2012, the turnover of the company was over $600 million. That's one example. Another one, recently, a company that was manufacturing remote control helicopters or model helicopters. In fact, when the owner was still a university student, they came forward to apply for funding under CIRAP, and we actually gave him the funding. And now this company has become one of the leaders, let's say, the market leader of remote control model helicopters. So that's a successful example. We approved 390 odd projects. Chairman, how many minutes are you giving to each member, including a reply? This member has used over 7 minutes. It should be 5 minutes since we have ample time. No, we have many questions. Well, okay. I think they will finish within 2 minutes. But I'm queuing up. It is now 4:15. You have to end at 4:30. And this is a very important scheme, we should not just concentrate on one company. Mr. Lam was talking about effectiveness. If you say there is no effectiveness, just say no. Don't go into individual companies. Allow them to give you the answers. Can you?
Next, Mr. Mok Nai Kwong. 5 minutes. I want to follow up on my previous questions. I can hear your reply. And I think more or less we are asking about the same things. We're worried that the small enterprises will lose their attention and the assistance. You keep saying that it is not a problem. You're going to look at the situation, but you cannot provide any objective criteria to tell us that in the future small enterprises won't lose their attention. Perhaps you can give them a quota. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. If you don't have a quota system, perhaps you can say that you will look at enterprises with different scales. SMEs now under CRAP in terms of project management, capability level, profitability, potential, perhaps all the money will go into those with more promising potential. So I think you need to go back and work on the actual objective vetting criteria and make them clear so that we see that certain protection will be offered to the SMEs. Secondly, you haven't answered me about the transition. If you have time in a minute, perhaps you can talk about CRAP. When it's going to be concluded? When will you stop accepting applications? Because you're saying even if you enter CRAP application, you can withdraw. I still want to see if there are any ways to avoid duplication of applications. Is there a convenient way to allow them to choose? For the late applicants, you can transfer them to ESS very quickly. Can you consider that? And thirdly, existing vetting procedures. Unfortunately, Mr. Wong just said that there shouldn't be any problems. But we have heard about problems. So under the new scheme, ESS, are you going to allow a better appeal mechanism? Because there will always be views coming from the failed applicants. Can you set up a reasonable appeal mechanism? Chairman? Thank you, Mr. Mok. First of all, the administration will not prefer larger enterprises in any way. Our prediction will be that more smaller enterprises will come forward. I have mentioned in LegCo and elsewhere that there are many more smaller startups. ITF is not something that can be offset. We do not assess them according to their scale. We classify different types of companies, for example, Chinese medicine or biotechnology. When they are ready, they can go to the panel. So scale is of no relevance. Charles asked about the procedures. Let's say that ESS will be launched on the 1st of March because we are just dealing with the forms. Or even before the 1st of March, CRAP will be stopped on the same day. On 13th of February, they can submit CRAP applications if we launch ESS on the 14th, which is Valentine's Day. But we will tell them a new scheme has been launched and they can withdraw the form at any point if they, for whatever reason, they want to stick with CRAP. For example, they have done it before, success rate is higher, because the panel will be the same. For the lay applicants under CRAP, perhaps they are not aware of the ESS, perhaps they haven't heard the budget speech. Well, we will write and notify the CRAP applicants and tell them you can withdraw. The information can be submitted under ESS. And the information is more or less the same. Can you consider improving the appeal mechanism? I don't want to talk for too long, otherwise Ms. Chang will scold me. Chairman, we're all concerned about technological advancement in Hong Kong and also diversity of industries in Hong Kong. We have been panel members for 2 years. We have spent quite some time on trying to understand how industry diversification can be achieved. There's been a lot of talk, but I do not see any clear direction. So I would like to say that CRAP is going to be replaced by ESS. There will be major problems. First of all, in the past you asked for repayment. Whether they were able to or not is a separate matter. They had the responsibility to repay you. But now you're saying there's no need for repayment. To be honest, large enterprises may not care about your money, but smaller enterprises will definitely queue up to get your money. Therefore, who is responsible for the vetting work? What are the criteria? It is not like welfare work in Hong Kong. You have means testing. You see if people actually don't have the money for basic living. How do you do means test? You can keep talking, but I can tell you, you cannot do it. So the risk is very high, it's dangerous. I think you need to be very cautious in considering. Perhaps you can consider other practices. It is not about inviting people's applications. But what has been done in reality, and then you can offer some sort of reward. For example, allow them to purchase new facilities or machines. They don't need to go through vetting because they have already provided previous performance to you. The original syrup can be retained because there are many SMEs needing funding support from the government. Perhaps they don't need much, but I think you need to keep the original scheme while adding a new one. If you obtain any technological award, then the government can show their appreciation. So this is my suggestion. Thank you, Ms. Chang. We will consider. Right now, as I've mentioned, the LEAP program was successful and we provided further support. So it is a good approach to provide reward. This is just a general scheme to replace syrup. Let's not divide up the enterprises according to their scale. When it comes to the panel, they are famous figures, deans of universities, successful industrialists. This is a collective decision. Janet, I just want to tell you, the panel will be consisted of famous figures, but I can tell you it's hard to define. In the past, under CRAP, you specified that they had to be incorporated in Hong Kong. But now, there's no regard paid to how many people are employed. As long as they are incorporated in Hong Kong, they can get as much as 10 million. And you will say, of course, you will do vetting carefully. But according to the information you are providing now, that is the case. 10 million per person, no need for repayment. So that is not fair. What economic benefits will be created to Hong Kong, you cannot tell us. And what about effectiveness? You cannot tell me either. You don't even need to hire anyone. I believe that in the future, when it comes to the number of employees, and also their capability, we will follow very closely. I don't think at the beginning many will apply for 10 million. Many startups will apply. And another point, Mr. Lam said that I have undertaken. Right now we are just launching it, hopefully to get good response from the market. But I'm not saying that we won't change or make adjustments. After 1 year, we will look at the split between big ones and small ones. And we will dig very deep to see if small enterprises are getting help and also the original policy objective. All right, Ms. Wong, we only have a few minutes left. So should I extend the meeting by 15 minutes? All right, okay. Mr. Chung Kwok-pun. Many people have said that the government is very stingy in terms of R&D investment. And all of a sudden, this is a great leap forward and they are not even asking for repayment. I have to interrupt you. There's economic affairs panel at 4:30. I cannot extend the meeting. So just use your time. Sorry. So for large enterprises, they will apply because no need for repayment, no need to show any performance or results. I went to Finland in September. I got this very good example. They have to do repayment, but the discretionary power rests with the administration. If the startup fails, they have tried the best, no need to repay. But for large enterprises, they get 5 million 10 times. You cannot just let it go. So in case of successful commercialization, you need to ask for repayment. Chairman, well, this is the basic concept of the design of the scheme. Only repayment is needed under CRAP. We have reviewed the situation, and just like members, we feel that the GDP ratio is not satisfactory and we want to push it up. In the past years, ITD at various occasions and also panel meetings, we have tried to improve our schemes, but they are incrementally done. The base figure may be very big, and we feel that if we are to go ahead and create greater impact, the policy strength will need to go up. As for CRAP, people have to make repayments, so people would feel that they should not bother. So this time, we are very brave and we want to take one step to push up the level of private sector investment in R&D. So this is at the conceptual level.
But you shouldn't rush into anything. We have given you a lot of views. They are our worries and our fears. You must understand them, and you must not push the project without regard to our views. You have heard members' worries. We don't want you to favor or be inclined towards the large enterprises. You must draft a way to include SMEs. You just cannot say you won't neglect the SMEs. And also the interface must be done smoothly. I hope you have heard members. I hope you will give a special consideration to the split between large and small companies. Members, since you are so concerned about this project, at an appropriate time after launching it, we come back with a report to you, all right? Okay, thank you very much for attending the meeting. Thank you. In other words, we will give you a detailed analysis. If there is nothing else, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.